Okay, so I think I'm just going to start off by introducing our next speaker, Kala Trobe, author, esotericist, professional tarot reader, and witchy Hindu. Her books include Invoke the Goddess, Connecting to the Hindu, Greek and Egyptian Deities, the Magic Bookshop Trilogy, Stories of the Occult, and 2 Nagas literary novels on magical, ritual, and reincarnational themes, Spiritus and Ascension. All of which are very good, by the way. Go and read them. You okay then? Okay, so without more ado, I shall introduce you to Kala Trobe.
Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Good morning, and a happy Mahashivratri to you all. It's the main festival of Lord Shiva. We're currently right in the middle of Shiv Purana time in the UK, which is when the scriptures of Lord Shiva are chanted. Devotees the world over will have stayed up all last night praising Shiva. The point, on a personal level, is to engender a new form of consciousness, destroying those habits and attachments that no longer serve. It seems particularly auspicious for us today that Shiva is the god of yogic self-discipline and of the occult powers, which naturally spring from this, and that his retinue includes witches and mystics. He is easily pleased by any who worship him, even demons, making him one of the most popular Hindu gods. He and Parvati, who you can see on the screen here, are the parents of Lord Ganesh, the elephant-headed god of good luck, remover of obstacles, and guardian of portals, whom I invoked at the beginning of this talk, and also of the righteous war god Skanda. So today we'll be looking at Lord Shiva, and also at his female counterpart, or Shakti, also at why and how Hinduism and modern occult practice are deeply interlinked. But before we get into it all, let me quickly define my terms. By Hinduism, I am referring primarily to Hindu Sanatana Dharma, the true spiritual and philosophical root of modern Hinduism, and not necessarily to any orthodox religion. And the word occult obviously has its origin partly in the meaning hidden, but with so many traditions and techniques now wide out in the open, I'll be using it to denote any of those eclectic practices which presuppose the existence of unseen entities, the possibility to affect matter and mind with will, and any techniques which contain an acceptance of what to society in general would seem supernatural. So, to the god of the day himself, Lord Shiva. To get us into a suitable mood, we'll start with a contemplative piece that I wrote on him in my 2001 publication, Invoke the Gods. I hope it won't seem too dark, but Lord Shiva, like his consort Kali, is all about the decapitation of the ego. As Kala Bhairava, he is Lord of Time, and consequently of death, both metaphorical and literal. Yet he also offers great powers of spiritual protection and elevation. The Ganges pours from Shiva's hair in 7 sacred streams, carrying sacraments in its holy, potent flow. Ash, which has dusted his body for years, floats as flotsam on the dark and luminous waters. His skin is the Himalayan snow, ice cold with renunciation. Each peak a feat of will over matter, a monument to self-mortification carved out by eons of stalwart effort. The blue sky is his face, as dark as a storm cloud at the throat, where the poison of the cosmos is trapped, corked forever against the demons who would destroy Dharma and humankind. Behind his head rears the 1,000-headed cobra, its hood protecting him from sun and snow. The crescent moon glimmers in his hair jatters like a fish trapped in a net. And in the background hangs another moon, huge and astral, shining full on the haunted yogic mountains. Gurus abide here, youthful ancients like Holy Babaji, wizened sadhus, contorted in devotion, levitating mystics who can walk in 2, 3, 4 worlds at once, occult masters, and chanting mantrics who keep the cosmic motor running, saintly beings who live and die in bleak obscurity, but who bless the worlds with their very breath. In Shiva's domain, the sound of Om is audible in the steep inclines that are acts of devotion petrified, and in cold, dark caves lined with tiger fur, it finds its echo. Sometimes the sheer peace of the place enrages him. 100,000 years of meditation can make man and God alike crave the wilder side of life. Then Shiva arises, unraveling the legs bent so long in sacred lotus posture, and the mountains shake as the power crackles from his limbs. Four ash-encrusted arms fan out to touch the sky, remembering their fluency of movement. Ecstatic with the change, Lord Shiva begins to dance, slowly at first, and then in long movements like serpents, which are his jewelry, then faster and faster with menacing intent. His face grows darker. Where once was pallor, life force spreads across his physiognomy like ink. His third eye clicks open, and 1,000 karmas are incinerated as it takes its primal glance. As news of Shiva's awakening spreads through the ether, his retinue gathers. From tavern, gambling den, and cremation ground comes a storm of lost souls, whirling its way up the mountain with a low-pitched, freakish groan, and a sound to freeze the blood of those who live. Troubled spirits are attracted by the din, and with these come the possessed and the spiritually dispossessed, the insane, and shrieking women tearing at their hair. All of the thieves and criminals of India hear the call of their Lord and add themselves to his ghastly crew. Together they whirl wildly down the mountain. Thunderous, blue-skinned Shiva and a million ghosts and phantasms and chanting sorcerers, and women beating at their breasts like those in grief. He will wipe the illusory world away and bring its struggling souls to rest in his body. Monumental dancing Shiva, trident swirling, arms like blades now, as he gathers speed and runs screaming, drilling down the mountain. Every creature that hears this sound dies instantly, shedding the shell of flesh, which is the god's favourite trick, and finding sweet refreshment in the fountain of life that is the inner essence of frightful seeming Shiva. His thoughts are irrevocable, for though he still sits in samadhi on that icy mount, and though he has merely dreamed the day of our destruction, his mind sets the wheels of Maya into action, and once triggered, Vishnu himself cannot turn them back. Now, Shiva will slice up the world. Then, with lingam and yoni conjoined, conceive another, purer, cleaner than the last. Demons will not know this new place, nor will the possessed, nor the spiritually dispossessed. The new Yuga will be blessed by Shiva and by the Kalki Avatara, the final incarnation of Vishnu. An era of virtue and of realization of the divine within us all. For the act of creation is as natural to him as the act of destruction. And the gods play with the poles of duality, like children playing with torches and shadows. Once this is done, he will return to his palace, to luxuriant-haired Parvati in her red sari glistening with gold, to his dear sons Ganesh and Skanda, and tell them all about what he's done at work today. Om Namah Shivaya. So, Shiva has to be one of the most striking manifestations of the Hindu pantheon. The ash that he wears, as do his devotees, is actually vibhuti, or burnt cow dung, the cow being representative of the Holy Mother of creation, while the fire symbolises the male principle that ignites it. We see here some of Shiva's Aghoris and Nagas, who generally go naked except for this vibhuti ash. At the Kumbh Mela, the major festival of Hinduism that occurs alongside the holiest rivers in India, and is, in fact, the largest gathering of human souls on earth. And I believe the head count in 2019 was around 150 million. Ascetics, sages, and yogis mingle freely here with householders, and one can hope to find the right guru. Many of these perform extraordinary penances or tapasyas, such as keeping one arm in the air for years, or feeding only off detritus, showing that all is holy, and death is the other half of life. To quote from one of the sadhus in the excellent documentary Naga, ash is the material part of light. To dress oneself with it means to dress oneself with stars. Mela itself celebrates a Hindu creation myth, the churning of the primordial ocean of milk, and the amrita of immortality that was eventually attained from it and was spilled on certain sacred sites. The amrita represents the faculty of spiritual advancement through the opening of the Ajna chakra, or third eye, and the empowering of the individual so that moksha may be attained, which is ultimate release from the bonds of duality. But please note that it takes both gods and demons to churn this ocean. Duality is necessary for life as we know it, both within the individual and in the outside play of Maya. Paramahansa Yogananda calls this realm the cosmic motion picture of life, with its heroes and villains, and both are required. Just like the churning of the ocean, which brings forth many gifts as well as poisons, it's through effort and even turmoil that we find the treasures within our own souls. And this duality is present too in the gods, not least Shiva, who, as Nataraja, can dance the worlds into destruction. One of the fundamental parallels between Hinduism and occult belief is the basic precept of the soul, or Atma, that exists externally and independently of one's incarnation, causing consciousness in the brain rather than the brain defining oneself. This overview is referred to in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras as the witness, but it is known to many as the higher self, the holy guardian angel. Whatever you call it, it's the essence of each of us that overviews and assesses our personal progress through each stage of existence. Both classical Hindu and modern occult philosophies operate on the understanding that all apparently individual beings are, in fact, connected with one another on both sides of the veil, with the planet and all she contains, and with an original divinity. This web between us, known variously as Akasha, ether, or the Om, invisibly attaches and affects all things on all levels. In his bestseller, The Occult, Colin Wilson states, "There is a kind of psychic ether that carries mental vibrations, as the luminiferous ether is supposed to carry light. This I would define as the fundamental proposition of magic or occultism, and perhaps the essential one. In the modern paradigm, a body might be described as the 3D avatar, with the soul at the keyboard above, programming and directing a vast array of our circumstances, choices, and decisions. The soul remains universally connected, while our sensory experience gives the illusion of isolation. Individual ego numbers each of us with the Maya delusion of solitary confinement in our bodies, and with the soul-distracting craving for personal power. In modern terms, this invisible network is known as quantum entanglement. For several decades now, scientists such as Alan Aspect have been manipulating photons and discovering instant replications of circumstance in those at one point conjoined, but now many miles apart. This throws a whole new spin on the idea of light bodies and on what Einstein famously termed spooky action at a distance, at least to the materialistic West. Shamans and yogis have long been accessing this etheric web through heartfelt ritual, meditation, and yoga in order to attain healing, spiritual insight, and liberation. The general idea has been to attain a life more harmonious with the planet and with all other evolving beings. And there's many of those. Within Hinduism, this coherence of temporary body and eternal soul leads through good karma to better circumstances in which to cement our relationship with spirit, and the general aim is to levitate off the wheel of samsara, or perpetual birth and rebirth. Rebirth and death. Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay. Hinduism itself is replete with examples of the so-called miraculous. Paramahansa Yogananda's spiritual classic, Autobiography of a Yogi, contains vivid descriptions of tiger taming sadhus, bilocating gurus, and the immortal yogi Babaji, who in chapter 34 even creates a temporary astral palace for the sake of a disciple who has once praised such opulence. A child is raised from the dead, and Yogananda's guru, Sri Yukteswar, actually returns to him several weeks after his own death and explains what happens between lives. Yogananda led an enlightened life by example, setting up the Self-Realization Fellowship in Los Angeles before finally exiting into Samadhi in 1952. He is, without a doubt, one of the main people to bring Hindu spiritual practice, especially yoga, to the West. But why exactly are there so many miracles? I know it seems ridiculous to us. But in Hinduism, it's accepted that occult or mystical powers are naturally attained after transcending the mind. The Vibhuti Padas of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras gives many specific examples of the mystical powers one may attain, incidentally, whilst effectively practicing yoga. Yogananda describes these as necessary personal proofs that one is progressing in meditation. Markers along the way, basically. These powers include the ability to survive long periods without food or drink, to effortlessly withstand extreme heat or cold, telepathic and empathetic powers, invisibility, powers of remote viewing, and the ability to manifest substances at will. Not to mention levitating, walking on water, raising the dead. And for these reasons, many suspect Jesus of having studied in India and trained in meditation during the 21 years of his life that are unaccounted for in the Bible. However, it is also said that power corrupts even the most advanced of gurus or yogis. And it differs from some branches of the modern occult in that the keynote is discernment or viveka. Once acquired, these powers are seen as tests and temptations against the will for megalomania. We see here the contemporary mystic Mother Meera. Verse 40 of the Vibhuti-pada talks of mastery over metabolic prana, engendering inner fire and fiery radiance, much like Meera's halo, as described by Andrew Harvey in his book Hidden Journey. Still in the brilliant red sari she had worn for darshan, stood Meera alone. All around her, as she stood there gazing at us, was a blaze of light, white diamond light. I began to tremble and perspire. The light streamed from her. Her skin was a deep and fiery gold. Her eyes blazed, vast and abstract, like two bonfires in the darkness. That the light emanated from her and not from any other source was unmistakable. Beyond any doubt, I was seeing with open eyes the divine light and Meera burning in it. She was saluting, I realized, the divine self in each of us. You too are this light that I am, her gesture told us. You are me, and I am you, and we are inseparable forever. Another wonderful quote comes from one of Harvey's fellow disciples. He says that the ego forges everything. It has to go on surviving in its dreary theatre. But the soul remembers. And one day, that memory takes over in one continuous fire of bliss, and the theatre burns down. In the late 1800s, Swami Vivekananda stated that what we call matter and mind are one and the same substance. The only difference is the degree of vibration. Mind, at a very low matter of vibration, is what is known as matter. Matter, at a high rate of vibration, is what is known as mind. In 1944, Max Planck spoke of a field of intelligent energy that connects everything, pointing out that what we perceive as matter is here because of an all-pervasive, conscious, intelligent mind. Einstein's colleague, John Wheeler, declared, "We are not separate. There are no observers, only participants." And now, leading scientists at CERN are saying that an act of expectation actually creates the thing. Thus, we can never quite find the edge of the universe. The Vedic mysteries are being rediscovered empirically. So, in my opinion at least, it's an extremely exciting time to be alive. The importance of mantra and spoken seed sound in Hinduism demonstrates a deep and ancient understanding that the vibration of sound affects the physical and emotional universe. Like much modern magic, Hinduism has its roots firmly planted in shamanism. According to Sanskrit scholar Dr. Debashish Banerjee, the tribes of the Indus Valley flourished some 8,000 years BCE, long before most estimates, which he points out are based on discoveries of sophisticated written tracts, artifacts such as silver bowls, and silver wasn't local, and highly developed hydraulics and plumbing. So, the Indus civilization must have begun much earlier in order to develop to such a degree and to trade abroad. Either way, Hinduism began as a natural animist religion. The language of Sanskrit, which developed out of the Indus Valley, is known as the language of the gods and is mother of all human tongues. For example, Ranchal Prime pointed out during satsang recently that the river name Thames springs from the Celtic word for dark water, which is Temelos, which in turn flows from the Sanskrit word for darkness or ignorance, which is Tamas. Thanks largely to the recent uprise in popularity of yoga, Sanskrit is undergoing a renaissance both in India and the West. This is partly due to the ancient and newly reaccepted understanding of the vibrational power of sound. Hinduism, like magic, contains everything that is possible to be believed. All is alive, and deity resides everywhere, in plant, mineral, animal, human, and indeed sound. This is amply demonstrated in Hindu art. Here, for example, we can see the embodiment of the sacred river Ganges. The goddess Sri Gangaji is riding on her crocodile steed. And on the right, we have Gayatri, personification of the famous Gayatri mantra. So if anyone doesn't know it, it goes Om Bhurviva Swaha Tat Savitarvarenyam Bhargo Devyasa Dhimahi Diyo Na Prachodayat. Each of the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet is invested also with the divine, similarly to Hebrew, and may be worshipped as such. Soul is in everything, because everything is soul. We literally are goddess, because we are living inside their dream and are made of the stuff of the divine universe. So, as well as performing symbolic acts on the physical planes, Hindus and magical adepts alike go inward through meditation and mantra in order to affect outer circumstances. The all-pervasive Om, also known as Pranava, is what forms the vibratory network that connects everything in the known universe, and no doubt much beyond that. It is the primal sound and stands for Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. It is the principle of all life in seed sound. In the field of popular entertainment, Neil deGrasse Tyson says, we are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically. We are not figuratively, but are literally stardust. This has long been perceived by sadhus and aghoris, who, as just mentioned, cover their naked bodies in the stardust ash, which both represents and actually is cosmic death and rebirth. So we exist in a realm of necessary duality, yet are also unified on a higher level and are Advaita, without division, because we are all part of the process, as demonstrated by the churning of the ocean. I mean, demons and gods were equally required. It's interesting too to note the Darwinian parallels. From the primal soup of Hinduism comes Vishnu, forming first as a fish, then as a tortoise, a boar, a monkey, and finally a man, all as echoed by Occidental evolution theory, which came so much later. Much of Hinduism, such as the theory of reincarnation, was brought to the Western esoteric canon by Helena Blavatsky and her school of Theosophy. This formidable lady assimilated many of the world's finest religions and represented them in her own inimitable way to 19th century America and Britain. There's no doubt at all in my mind that Hinduism would have reached us by now anyway. But definitely certain movers and shakers brought it to the Western mysteries far earlier. So terms such as chakras, yantras, tantra, akasha are all familiar to us, largely due to Blavatsky's writings. Most famously, her 1877 tome, Isis Unveiled, and The Secret Doctrine, published in 1888. She has been called the founding mother of the occult in America. She was exceptionally well-travelled from an early age and was fluent in many languages and cultures, including Tibetan. In 1878, she went to India and very creatively knitted together much of Hinduism, Tibetan Buddhism, Jainism, Baha'i, Judaism, mystical Christianity, and Western esoteric and religious law. Then this in turn filtered down through the Theosophical Society to those involved with groups such as the Golden Dawn and Rudolf Steiner's Anthroposophical Society. She also affected the worlds of art, of science. Edison, for example, was massively influenced by her. Literature, W.B. Yeats and Aldous Huxley spring to mind. And remarkably, it was a chance meeting with a couple of theosophists in London that led Gandhi himself to Hinduism. That's just bonkers, right? Like many Indians of the time, he had actually been raised within the Christianity of the British Raj. Annie Besant, suffragette and later on theosophist, was also highly influential in bringing Hinduism to what is now common Western esoteric lore. She also reared the Indian child Krishnamurti, you can see beside her there, to become a prophet or Maitreya, a role which she famously denounced in later years. Numerous Eastern gurus have also had a more direct influence on the West. Just a few examples are Rajneesh, later on known as Osho, Sai Baba, and Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who heavily influenced the Beatles and Rolling Stones at one point, and purportedly brought transcendental meditation to the West. Swami Prabhupada's Hare Krishna movement, that you can see in the corner there, continues to be a huge asset. Theories based partly on aspects of Hinduism and Sanskrit have also filtered down through Timothy Leary, Robert Anton Wilson, Kenneth Grant, and a host of other lecturers and writers. However, arguably, the most influential books have been the Bhagavad Gita, widely disseminated by the Hare Krishna movement, and Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi. That's arguable. That's what I think. Okay, so this picture is taken from a modern version of the Bhagavad Gita. In verse 13, Krishna tells Arjuna, as the self moves in this body from childhood to youth to old age, so it passes into another body at death. The wise are not confused by this issue. So just as many Occidental mystics accept that, just as the child is very different to the adult, any parents in the room will understand this, and just as the cells of our bodies are constantly being replaced, an eternal soul connection remains, and it's unchanged always. But the idea is, of course, to hop off the wheel of samsara, of eternal deaths and rebirths, and to return to source, or at least to one of the paradisical planets, such as Krishna Loka or Brahma Loka. Samsara itself translates as coming and going, and the soul is destined to continue like this until we do something about it, such as meditation, yoga, good works. I mean, basically the ultimate goal is moksha, or spiritual liberation. Reincarnation is widely accepted within the canon of modern magical practice. Aleister Crowley, for example, believed himself to be the reincarnation of Eliphas Levi. Basically, in my opinion anyway, it doesn't much matter who one was or may have been. The focus ought to be on the current state of existence. But occasionally, past lives can be used as a healing influence on the present. As Dion Fortune's character, Hugh Paston, says in The Goatfoot God, how do I know that the Abbot Ambrosius is me? Well, I suppose, strictly speaking, I don't know. But I think it with a kind of inner conviction that I can't describe. If he isn't me, at at least he corresponds to something very deep in my subconscious. And he's worth cultivating, whether he's fact or fantasy. Along with reincarnation theory has come to the West the chakra system, now widely adopted in modern occult practice. Yogananda says, the purpose of life is to ascend the 6 spinal centers, reinforcing the human consciousness progressively with greater and greater lights, until it is able to unite with the all-pervading, 1,000-rayed brilliance in the higher center of the brain. This ascent of consciousness through the spine may be achieved slowly through right actions and right thoughts. The yogi, however, chooses the quicker and more scientific method of meditation. The use of sacred sound to affect matter is common to both Hinduism and the occult, whether this be through spells, chants, or rituals in effective languages. In Hinduism, the spoken word is purported to be the most effective form of evolution in the Kali Yuga, and this is a really important point, by the way. So greater than Rama is the repetition of Rama's name. We can actually find ascension or elevation through repeating, just chanting. That's all we need to do. It's absolutely amazing. So the mantric principle is of repetition, with single focus on what one wishes to aspire towards, praise, or attain. So I've got a witchy example for you here. The use of incantations, words that carry energy and are arranged to a compelling meter, along with ritual paraphernalia and hopefully visualization, are common to both Hinduism and the occult. These create a self-hypnotic state, as well as invoking the desired result through phonetics and onomatopoeia. For example, this traditional West Country spell, taken from Gemma Gary's amazing book, The Black Toad. Okay, so here we go with a traditional West Country spell. Underneath this hazelin moat, there's a braggarty worm with a speckled throat. 9 double is he. Now from 9 double to 8 double, and from 8 double to 7 double, and from 7 double to 6 double, and so on, until finally, no double hath he. This waning spell is mantric in nature and has numerous Hindu counterpoints. So, within this pantheistic, panpsychic religion, in which every single thing is connected, personal integrity is key in order to evoke and handle occult powers effectively, a commonality fundamental to both Hinduism and modern magic in general. Another parallel is that both Hindus and many modern occultists accept the possibility of highly advanced previous civilizations that have still been, they're not yet confirmed by archaeology. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, the French translation of which introduced many Europeans to Hinduism during the colonial era, describes our descent from the Satya Yuga of truth and closeness to Godhead into the current Kali Yuga, purportedly the darkest and most spiritually impoverished of epochs, although I have to disagree with that in some ways, but anyway. So similar beliefs about previous empires are to be found in many branches of the occult, such as the Theosophical belief in Atlantis and Lemuria, and various root races operating on different wavelengths, many not even perceptible by human senses. That other planets and galaxies, and indeed this one, might be inhabited by beings of a wavelength other to our own is surprising neither to the Hindu nor the magician. Indeed, it's a given in both cases. Okay, so we're just going to take a brief look at the Vedic concept of the universe, just for some perspective. Okay, so there are numerous strands of Hinduism. I mean, thousands and hundreds of thousands. And many, many aspects of names for its divinities. But cohering factors include the reverence for Om, the worship and protection of Gal Mata, who's the holy cow, and respect for Bhudevi, or Mother Earth. Seen here in the context of the Vedic geocentric multiverse, and we're literally right in the middle there. So that's us in the middle. This scheme contains 14 vertical lokas, or worlds, each itself a horizontal galaxy. The top lokas represent differing degrees of paradisical closeness to the divine and to samadhi, while the lower ones grow increasingly dense and hellish as they descend. These are inhabited primarily by arrogant materialists, the angry and the lustful, terrifying Naga serpents, and of course demons. The Nagas themselves represent untamed physical prerogatives. So we can see here how the gods themselves have complete control over their relationship with these Nagas. In other words, they have it sorted, they have complete self-control. This symbolism is very obviously echoed in later Judeo-Christian law. So we can see here, Lord Krishna is effortlessly subduing a fearsome Naga, and Lord Vishnu actually uses the king of the snakes as a parasol. That's how cool they are with their physical prerogatives. The Hindu gods have a complicated and ambivalent relationship with the demons, or asuras, because they're necessary to the dynamic of creation. And besides, all is sacred in its own way. Lord Shiva and Vishnu are particularly fond of them and often grant them powers in return for devotions or tapasyas. Needless to say, these empowerments are frequently abused by the demon concerned. And Durga, Kali or Saraswati has to be called in to trick or destroy them. But there's a definite strange fondness between the devas and the asuras, which is reflected in the fact that escape or redemption is possible even from the lowest of the lokas. So we're back at this now. Okay, we don't have time to explore this all. I can see we're running out of time now. But two that might be familiar to you are Mahaloka, which is the fourth down at the top there, where abide the souls of the seven greatest sages. observing human life and behaviours. So they're the invisible watchers, basically. Hi, Paul. Ascended masters. Another similarity between Hinduism and much occult law are often associated with or pass through this realm, where they may be more easily accessed by the less advanced. And also Svargaloka, which is directly beneath it, which is a set of beautiful worlds full of inner peace and understanding, inhabited by Lord Indra and various divine beings. It's kind of a in-between incarnations paradise, basically. Okay, really need to get onto this because this is mega important. So, it being Shivratri, I want to return now to the Lord of the day himself, Lord Shiva, and in one of his particularly interesting forms, which is Ardna Ishwara. So this is the hermaphrodite of, well, one of them, one of the hermaphrodites of Hindu mythology. It's not mythology, it's actually truth. Okay, so Shiva is the perfect role model for intense yogic self-discipline, interspersed with periods of extreme letting down of his dreadlocks or jatas. In my opinion, one of his probably the most interesting form is Ardna Ishwara, representing the perfectly harmonious conjunction of male and female, or Shiva and Shakti. And we can see to the right here, Violet Chachki from RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm sorry, it's one of my favourite things. But she's demonstrating a contemporary version of Ardna Ishwara to a T, I reckon. In ancient India, the lines between male and female, heterosexual and homosexual, seem to have been pretty blurred. The Vedas are replete with examples of this. Shiva becomes female and dances with Krishna as one of his gopis. This legendary scenario lives on today in the form of the Hijras, or Kinnar, as they prefer to be termed, referring to the mythological beings that excel at song and dance. Hindu mythology speaks of them as demi-goddesses, but British rule shunned them and cast them into poverty. They used to grace marriages and bring good luck and fertility. Sadly, today, many see them as deviants and as the rightful victims of bad karma. The Kama Sutra, however, describes the third gender as Tritiya Prakriti, or third nature, showing that at least 3 genders are seen to be part of the natural order. Most famously, the Ramayana tells the story of Lord Rama's banishment from his kingdom for 14 years. His loyal subjects attempt to go with him, but he asks the men and women to return to their city. His Kinnar followers, not fully classifiable as either, feel unbound by this request and remain with Rama. Touched by their loyalty, Lord Rama grants them the ability to bestow blessings at weddings, births, and other important occasions. Okay, so the theme of gender fluidity is extremely relevant to modern occulture. So here we have, for example, Genesis P. Orridge, who attempted to merge both spiritually and psychophysically with his lover, Lady J, both of them undergoing cosmetic surgery in order to become more compatibly androgynous. Here we can see him, or them as is preferred, channeling something along the lines of Ardna Ishvara, who certainly has the Triskula or trident of Shiva. So, within the occult, homosexuality has, of course, been used both as sex magic, Crowley's Paris workings with his love of Victor Newberg spring to mind, traditional, social and religious expectation. In the Mahabharata, Vishnu becomes the beautiful seductress Mohini and appears at the churning of the ocean in order to seduce the demons out of their amrita of immortality. The Puranas tell of how Lord Vishnu, as Mohini, becomes pregnant by Lord Shiva and gives birth to the god Ayappa, who is the lord of the animals. Perhaps it's owing to the theory of reincarnation and to the equal reverence for Shiva god and Shakti goddess that gender fluidity is so frequent in the Hindu scriptures. God and goddess are equal in status. Ramakrishna points out, God dwells in all people, but the manifestation of this inner divinity varies from person to person. In saintly people, there is a greater manifestation of God. Women are special manifestations of the Divine Mother of the universe. We've got the great goddess Durga here, who's the Shakti of Lord Shiva, well, one of them. He's certainly incomplete without his female counterparts, so I'll just close off now with a quick look at some of her aspects. So Durga is the combined power of all gods and goddesses, and as such has many paradoxical seeming traits. She is the Divine Mother, yet she is Nitya Kanya, the Eternal Virgin. She is Adi Parashakti, who is Nirguna, without form, but who takes on various bodies in the cause of Dharma and has 9 major manifestations and many numerous lesser ones. Her mount, variously, it's a lion or a tiger, or an elephant, tiny chimera, shows her control over Dharma, her courage, and of course adds to her speed, ferocity, and agility. When angry, Durga is closely associated with Kali. Kali is sometimes manifested as an embodiment of Durga's fury, or even birthed from her third eye, and they often fight side by side. We see this holographic effect throughout the Hindu pantheon. Each individual contains the whole, just as each tiny segment of a holograph contains the entire picture. This is why it doesn't matter which deity you prefer to praise or worship as your gateway to the divine. All are connected within, as is all of creation. So Durga is one of the Tridevi, the 3 major goddesses of Hinduism. That's Durga Kali, Lakshmi and Saraswati. She is Brahman personified, as is each of them. Like Kali, Durga eats and drinks metaphorical meat and wine, taboo substances to the Hindu, which she's free to do because of her cosmic perfection. Nothing can be impure that touches her divinity. She might be deemed a confrontational version of the Egyptian Mart, and is somewhat comparable to Sekhmet. There's also a very strong Babylon vibe going on with her. Durga Devi is pacifying and beautiful, but a formidable enemy. Her name means impenetrable, distant, and fortress, although this great goddess is known by many others, spanning, as she does, a vast array of qualities. In some of her creation myths, Durga is self-generated. To my mind, at least, this best fits her. Okay, I can see we've gone over time, so I'm just going to hop to the main aspects of Durga that I think are the most relevant to us today, okay? So these would be Brahmacharini, so that's the second down on her left. So in yogini form, Durga carries only her mala and water pot, and the emphasis is on piety, austerity, and simple communion with the divine. Obviously, these are the most essential facets of the soul and psyche. So then also we've got this fascinating character, Kala in the middle of the base there. She looks a lot like Kali, like a weird Kali. She's usually riding on a mule, but she's a curse breaker. She's the deity of the seventh night of Navaratri, and she breathes fire, but she's benign nonetheless. So this saturnine goddess protects her supplicants from ghosts and all malign spirits, scaring those away with her own ghoulish righteousness. Right, and finally, taking us back to the supernatural side effects of yoga, or the concomitant siddhis, is Durga in her most spiritual aspect within the world, and that's Siddhi Dratri, which you can see up there on the uppermost right, sitting on a lotus, holding a book of Akashic wisdom. She receives the devotions of all, including the gods themselves. She is the enemy of pain, malice, and ignorance, and is an excellent role model for us all. Okay, so these themes and lateral topics are explained and explored in depth in my publications. Many of these are available at Labyrinth Books, opposite the church on the High Street, and also at Courtyard Books, opposite the Georgian Pilgrims. And you can also visit my website at kalatrobe.com for the links if you wish for that. So I hope this talk demonstrates that a key understanding shared between Hinduism and the occult is that it's possible to alter the universe, or the fractals of divine consciousness that are ongoing creation. Whether this be through imaginative ritual, spellcasting, shamanic interaction, or what in Hindu terms may be termed bhakti, puja, or tapasya. The field of intelligent energy that connects everything, now being discovered in the West, has been recognized in Indic and other shamanic cultures since time immemorial. This subject is literally infinite. So perhaps you could see this presentation as a little Rudraksha seed of potential, or, to paraphrase William Blake, a globe-sized grain of sand held in the palm of the hand, and infinity in an hour. Om Namah Shivaya.